Hello and welcome everyone to this new video. This time I'm going to show you my new plugin project that I'm currently working on, which is the first plugin that I will ever release to a broader audience, and it will be a free plugin. So if you're a producer, then check out this video because obviously you want a cool free plugin. And if you are a developer, then also check out this video because it's open source. So yeah, so what is the plugin? Its name is NEL-19 because it's a tribute to my son Lionel, who was born in 2019, obviously. And what it does is it lets my son fly through space in his space shuttle, trying to improve your sound by applying a randomized vibrato curve on it, similar to a tape delay, but without the tape degradation effects. So there is no lo-fi stuff in it, it just applies the vibrato, which for the developers among you means I'm using quite a good interpolation method. And yeah, I won't go into detail about the development stuff because you can just look at the code or watch the other videos that I will make about this. For example, I'm planning to make a video for the audio programmer where I talk about some of the technical details, but this might still be interesting for you because this video is all about the feeling of this plugin and how you can use it, and sometimes that also contains an information about the implementation. So yeah, what kind of parameters does it have? It has a depth which goes from 0 to 100%. It has a frequency from 0.5 Hz to 13 Hz. It has a width from 0 to 100%, and it has a studio button which is basically a look ahead. So this was loosely inspired by the normal Cubase vibrato, which also has a frequency. It can also be tempo sync, but I decided against tempo sync because a randomized vibrato curve with tempo sync, I don't know, maybe it would make sense, but I didn't feel like it makes a lot of sense in this case. A depth parameter and also a width called spatial. So yeah, it's pretty similar, except that this is a sine wave vibrato while mine is a randomized one. And also I have a look ahead button, which is pretty cool. I don't know how they solve the latency problem in a vibrato, but I solve it by just sending look ahead. And it can be turned off, like when you have studio turned off, then it will try to reduce the latency as much as possible without having to use look ahead. And if you give it look ahead, then it will just make everything be more or less lined up with where the dry signal would be if this plugin wasn't even enabled, you know. More about that later, I guess. First of all, let's just hear how it sounds on this nice little piece of audio which contains some drums and also some pads and bells and whatever. At this point, obviously, it doesn't do anything because we haven't turned up the parameters yet. So let's turn up the depth to the max and play again. And as you can hear, still there is no really audible change. But you see this little visualizer here which indicates that the delay read head is actually moving. This is a vibrato visualizer, a form of visualization that I came up with myself, which is meant to show you what the delay is doing. So if we play audio and yeah, if we are playing audio, then this vibrato visualizer will show you what the vibrato is currently doing. And the thing is, a vibrato is defined by how fast the read head of a delay changes. The read head is basically something for the producers among you. The read head defines where the delay currently is. So if in a traditional delay that would be a rate like 1/8 or 1/4, or some amount of milliseconds, and the delay in this plugin is 17 milliseconds long. So this shows you how far it is away from 0. This would be 0 and this is 17, and yeah, it doesn't change its position very quickly, and that's why you don't hear any vibrato. But if we turn up the frequency, then you will quickly notice that there is actually a vibrato. And as you probably noticed, when I turned both of them up to the max, then it suddenly made no sense anymore. But if I turn down the depth a lot and turn up the frequency, then it's almost equally as good as if I would turn down the frequency and turn up the max. The difference in feeling is just if I turn up the turn up the depth and turn down the frequency, then I get a slow vibrato, which reminds you a little bit of the wow effect in tape emulations, which is, I read that in some paper, defined by 4 Hz, by the way. So let's try to make a tape sound. Yeah, it would be something like this, I guess, maybe a little bit more subtle. But I mean, this is a showcase video, so I want you to actually hear the effect. However, what I thought was, if it's true that the depth and the frequency are kind of related, and why are they not just one parameter? And I tried that and didn't like it, because sometimes I want to have them as separate parameters. Then I added a little button where you could turn the linking on and off. And I also didn't like that, because then you always have to click that button if you want to make a little change. So what I did instead is I implemented the modifier key Alt, so that when I move one of them, I can move the other one at the same time. And that way we can, if we set them to the middle, then we can just see what we like better, the much depth option or the much frequency option. And you can also combine that with the usual modifier key thing that a lot of plugins have, where you hold down Shift to make subtle changes. And you can of course also just use Shift without Alt, so you can use these in combination, or you can not use these, whatever you want. And you can of course also use your mouse wheel to make adjustments like that, which I usually find most pleasurable in a plugin, because I don't want to turn down my finger to actually use my mouse. I just want to swipe over the values. Woo! That's always the best when that works. And I'm pretty proud of it, because it took a while to come up with how that works, and now it's finally pretty solid. Yeah, the width doesn't have any functionality on the Alt key, but you should keep in mind that the width only works if the depth is turned up a lot, because the width basically defines how strong every speaker should have its own vibrato. So if you don't have a lot of depth, then even if you turn up the frequency a lot, it will still be pretty close together, because there's just not a lot it can do. But if you turn up the depth a lot, then they will be more likely to go a little bit more spread out. And when I show you the sound now, you will notice that whenever they are quite spread apart, then you get a really wide sound, and if they are more close together, then it's a very narrow sound, which sounds like the signal is really close. Another interesting observation here, by the way, is that before, when I showed you the depth turned up to the 100% and frequency turned down completely, there was no really real sound change. At least it seemed like there was no change in sound. And now suddenly you hear it very drastically, even on this very low frequency. That's because now this effect acts as kind of an Haas effect, because Haas effects are also defined by a range of up to 20 milliseconds, and this is 17 milliseconds. So imagine that both of the signals on the left and the right channel have a slight delay offset to each other. So that's basically a Haas effect, right? So, and as we all know, because we are so versed in audio engineering, a Haas effect has a problem, which is monocompatibility issues. So let's dial in completely mono on this signal and listen to the sound. As you hear, it has a lot of flanging going on. So what changes about the different parameter values of the width? Maybe we can change the situation a bit. Let's see. So as you can hear, if we turn down the width completely, then we get a very solid dry sound that just works. If we dial it in just a little bit, then we get a very narrow sound that flanges a lot and it sounds like phew. And if we turn it up a lot, like up until this point and higher, then it starts to become apparent that it's two different signals with each their own delay, which is probably not very desirable in most cases. But like if you plan to put a huge reverb on something, then I guess monocompatibility issues don't matter as much anymore. So what we do now is we try to come up with a nice reverb, even though this is drums, I know. But then we will collapse that to mono and see what we get from that. And we'll make that, on the maximum width setting, and then also on this one. So as you notice, now that we have a lot of reverb behind my effect, it makes absolutely no difference anymore in mono if this had width or not. So let's compare the actual stereo sound now to see if it at least makes a difference in stereo. And we notice the difference that it makes in stereo also decreased a lot. So the width parameter really has to be used carefully. But I still wanted to include it because I mean a lot of things have a width parameter, and it would be too complicated to make a custom width parameter with routing and stuff. Nobody wants to do that. So let's go back and turn down the width again, because actually that's my least favorite feature, but I still like it. Okay, so what can I show you next? So yeah, what I'm going to do now is we will layer these drums with themselves and absolutely change nothing. Let's see what happens. And we see this is a chorus modulation effect. Now you have basically the opportunity to make your own chorus modulation effect with just one plugin, and you can define how each one of the vibratos in a chorus effect should work. You just have to instantiate this plugin 1,000 times and you can make your own choruses. Maybe at some point I will make a version of this plugin where you can just do that all in one plugin, which handles all the parallel processing and stuff for you, because it would be a very unique way of handling a chorus effect in my opinion. But I would have to find a way to reduce the parameters so that it's a little bit smarter. But that's a thing that you can do with this plugin as well. Okay, let's just skip this one. Oh no, wait. I remember why I put this here. Yes. Okay, so let's say you have some drums that sound like this. And you notice it has a lot of cymbals. It has some crash cymbals sometimes, and also some ride cymbals and stuff. And that's where my plugin really shines when it comes to Realdrums, in my opinion. If you just put it on some normal drum computer style drums, like the FL Studio standard drums, which I did, let me show you, then you won't notice a lot of a difference, because the samples are so short and snappy that you might just leave them without a vibrato. I mean, you can hear the effect, but to be honest, that was a pretty strong setting, and usually strong settings sound a lot less subtle. So apparently it doesn't make sense on snappy drums. How much sense does it make on roomy drums? And as you can hear, it really adds a little bit of life to the right cymbals. The right cymbals start to do this thing, but you don't really hear the effect on the snare and on the kick, even though it is on the same, in the same piece of audio. So that's what I also like about this effect a lot. You can put it on audio, and even though it has no concept of polyphony and stuff, it just sounds different on the different instruments of a track. I want to encourage you to also slap it on whole tracks, even though it's not intended as a mastering plugin, but just to get an idea what it does. I won't do that now because I would have to get the licenses of the different tracks that I would like to play for you, and I don't want my video to be taken down. By the way, send me files with cool audio if you made something with your band that you want to appear in one of my example sounds or something. I can't play the guitar very well myself. Yeah, what did I want to say? Yeah, it's really nice on anything roomy, like self-recorded, like drums that you recorded yourself and stuff. Okay, so what was the next example that I prepared here? I guess it was this. So let's see what we can do with this. Okay, so let's see, what do we have here? We have a kick. Not the most beautiful kick that I ever designed, but it's good enough for this example. We have a bass line. And we have another layer for the bass line. And together they sound like this. So the first layer is basically like the punchy one that's kind of cute and it's poking out, and the other one is a more diffused backgroundish one which just gives it a little bit more body. And then we have this break, and the break is sidechained by the kick. Sidechain compressed to be precise. Oh, I just noticed that this one doesn't really do anything at the moment. That's better. Okay. Yeah, so oh wait, I think I just remembered why it doesn't do anything. Because we need it for the next part. Ah, damn. That was a bad structure for a project file. Whatever. Yeah, so I added this part because I wanted to show you how you can use this in a layering situation, like with these bass lines. So let's say you have this bass line and they are always kind of behaving the same. It's like they have their own hierarchy. This one will always be the foreground and this one will always be the background. But what does happen if we put the vibrato on the second one? Well, first of all, we have to activate the studio button, because if we don't do that, then it will have too much delay. Yeah, okay, you can't notice it very well on this sound because it's a very low-endish sound, but you would notice it on anything that has a sharp transient like a snare. So activating studio, and now let's see what we can do. I think that really brought some life to this sound. And now what can we do with a break that kind of interacts with a kick? Yeah, so I think this part really got a little bit more life, but to be honest, I used it pretty subtle in this example. Sometimes you just can't go all out. I bet a lot of you who make more fancy music can go a little bit higher with the values, which is why I didn't let the range be even smaller than this. At the beginning I had an even longer delay that enabled me to use even crazier scratches if I wanted to, but then someone proposed that it's just too much, which was okay, I guess. But you can I think the range is really fine the way it is. If it doesn't, or if you don't feel like it is good, if you think it's too big or too small, then tell me about it. Or you have to listen to the transition into this part, just because, yeah, I mean, since you're here and everything. Okay, enough of that. I guess at some point I will have to put a little bit of white noise on this point, because that would be much more sick. So what do we have here? What is being added to this part? We have these drums, and they play together with a break that we already had earlier. Which is pretty cool, because we had put on the break NEL, and that will also add live to the combination between the break and these drums now, automatically already. And then we have these Kontrapunkt MIDI sections. I hope I'm using this term correctly. Kontrapunkt or Kontrapunkt is usually a term in the classical music which is used for, I think they use it, I'm not really sure, but I think they use it for the fact that sometimes melodies are not just harmonizing each other, but kind of complementing each other while still all having their own feel. And okay, I'm bad at describing this, but I guess this is a contrapunctual kind of composition. I hope so. So we have this. We have this rather serious bass line, which sounds like a strict dad who is kind of forcing their rules on the world. And then we have this contrapunctual 2 melody. And we have this urban pad, which sounds like we are in a tunnel with a car and we try to go really fast. And we are also full of magic. And then we have this third track. I'm not really sure how I would describe this sound. It's a little bit like a 60s LSD insanity thing. Okay, so now let's just try to apply the effect on the different tracks and see how far we can go with it. What do we already have here? We have a little bit of distortion on the bass line to make it a little bit more bassy, and we have a little bit of an equalizer. Nothing too special, let's just put NEL-19 behind it. And you know, the cool thing about this is you can also just stack them in series. And one of them might be slow and the next one might be fast. Yeah, I think that really added some more goofy funniness to this strict dad thing, and now it's kind of a happy guy who looks forward in life to every upcoming day. And now let's look at this sound. We already have a reverb on this one, because without the reverb it would sound like this. I mean, it's not terrible, but the reverb really adds some atmosphere to it. And I already set it up in a way that it has no modulation, because then I can show how my modulation adds something to this. Before I will use the effect on this one, I think I will add a little compressor. I'm not really content with it, I just noticed it. Okay, what do we have here? We have a little delay on it, which also does a good job diffusing the sound. Was confused. Okay. Hey, Mama kein Lärm da hinten. Wow. My cat is making shenanigans. Okay, so I added a very high frequency vibrato here to indicate that this is from the 60s and it's old and it was used already. But the delay does a good job diffusing this perception. And now we could even go further and like make it more tapish by adding some sort of saturation at the end that rolls off the high end. I hope that wasn't too much of a change. Now I actually like this third one more than the second one. And I liked the second one more before. But well, I mean, this is just a little demonstration. I won't mix the whole track now. One other thing that I want to show you though is what happens if we use it on the master channel. No need to use look ahead on the master channel, okay? Okay, so much about just the plugin. Now the context. If you want to test this plugin in your DAW, then I would really advise you to put a limiter behind it. Most people who have tested it said it's cool and it works fine, but one person who has tested it had huge noise of plus 600 decibels of noise, and I don't know why. It was in Studio One. I bought Studio One and it worked in my instance of Studio One pretty well. It has some other bugs, but usually not once on the audio processing, so I was really confused about that. So be careful with it, at least when you instantiate it the first time. After that it should be cool. Also, it could happen that I find other bugs that I wanna solve, or I might even come up with more features, but I'm not sure. I think it's pretty settled at this point. In that case, or in those cases, you want to be informed. And you can do that. If you see this or watch this video, then you are probably already asking, where can I download this? And I say the latest downloads are always at the Discord. I made a Discord group about this plugin, and I will always drop the latest download links there. And if some of them are not available anymore because I use WeTransfer, then you just tell me. So there's this little question mark in the plugin, which brings you to the options menu, where I'm thanking Blue Cat Audio for inventing the plugin script, which helped me to become a VST developer, because in plugin script you can write your own scripts and it's almost like C++. So you really get a nice basis for developing audio plugins, and you can test them right in your DAW. It's really comfy. And the audio programmer also has a link here, which if you're a developer, then you know him. If you're a producer, let me just tell you, he has a lot of videos about a framework called Juice, which also helps you a lot as a developer. And of course the link to the Juice framework, which was used to make this plugin. And I'm also thanking my son Lionel and the rest of my family, which means my cat Helmi and my girlfriend Alina, which does not have any word or image in this plugin, but I mean, I ran out of space here and I already had 128 times 128 pixels for each image, so that wasn't easy. You don't believe how often I had to redraw this whole image. So if you have feature requests, bugs, or just want to get the newest version of the plugin, then you would always click on this link, which brings you to my Discord. And this opens a browser tab, which leads to the invitation is what? Okay, seems like I have to solve an issue here. but this would usually lead you to my Discord group, and there you can find the downloads. Then the source code of the plugin is found on GitHub. So on GitHub you would basically go to the NEL-19 GitHub, and for some reason you have to manually choose master, and then this is where you find all the stuff. The audio stuff is all in this file, and the visual stuff is all in space, H and C slider for my custom slider, and the about component for my about page. And you can support me via PayPal if you like my work, or if you like the plugin, or if you're just rich and or whatever reason you might have to support me. And the version number is here. Actually, I should turn that up a little bit because I already released more downloads than one. Well, whatever. Actually, maybe I should put it. No, yeah. I think I will just get rid of this part of the image, because that would mean I would have to draw a new image every time I make a new version. That sounds rather annoying. I should make a custom font at some point. However, yeah, I think, oops, didn't want to click on that. Yeah, I think I should fix the Discord link on my plugin, and then you can always invite yourself to this link. And that's all I have to say for this video.